Well, I have to say I'm very happy to hear those statements because we've been working for years here to bring a bachelor's of art history into the school, and so this is music to my ears. Certainly it's the database for all of our creative artists' thinking is the knowledge that's been accumulated through generations and shared. And I just want to say also that one of my colleagues who actually teaches in the sciences in the United States he's educated in the arts from Russia. He said, and he teaches bio art. Anyway, he was saying the problem with many of the American students is, although they can access so much information on the internet, they're not able to synthesize. That's the problem. And that's something we can maybe bring up later. Anyway, now I would like to welcome James Morris, who is the director of the Web Media Production Program at Ravensbourne in London in the UK. He runs the BA Honors Web Media Production Program, and it's a unique course that blends creative web design and content production skills with social media and online community management. He has a PhD in communication from the European Graduate School in Switzerland, and writing his dissertation focusing on digital creativity. And it was published by Atropos Press. He has an MA in Media Arts from the New School for Social Research in New York, and a BA in Social Anthropology from the London School of Economics. And he's worked extensively as a journalist and a video maker. His talk today is entitled Shakespeare Online and the Future of Traditional Culture in the Digital Age. And James.
Before I start, I'd just like to apologise to Luca that my presentation has almost no words in it. It's mostly made up of pictures. So it'll be stark contrast again. So what I'm going to talk about today is, before I do that, maybe I should just explain where I come from, because Ravensbourne isn't very well known outside of the UK or even in the UK. That's a picture of the actual premises that we have, which was built in 2010, though the institution's been around for quite a few decades before that in a different location. It's a custom-built location. It's a bit like ADM's building in that respect, and that's one of the reasons why we've been kind of working on a partnership between the two organisations. Custom-built, and this building has won an architectural award. It's very open. It's designed to foster collaboration. The location is you can see from there. You can see the corner there, the Millennium Dome or O2 Arena, which is actually the world's largest venue now. It has the largest concerts anywhere, exceeded Madison Square Garden in that respect. So right next to a very performance-related, very media-related space, and so I thought I'd like to contextualise that. What we teach at Ravensbourne is, broadcasting, fashion. My course is about, as was described, is about the web. We also have film courses, photography courses. So it's and all with a very digital focus as part of the vision of moving to this new location. So I'm going to be talking primarily about a project that we've been doing on for the last 4 years or so, last 3 years, but moving into an ongoing relationship with the Royal Shakespeare Company. Now, this is obviously not the Royal Shakespeare Company, this is the Globe, but I thought it was with a fitting description of what we're talking about. We're talking about traditional culture, heritage. We have a very long heritage. We just had last year I think 450 years of celebration of Shakespeare, and this is the Globe Theatre showing a traditional play. How do we take that into the digital realm? So what's the context of that? This is, I thought I'd be the first person showing a picture of a child using some kind of digital device, but I've been superseded by the keynote speaker. Kid using a rather antiquated iPhone there, probably just get a cast off from their parent there, the iPhone 3. kids using an iPad. This is what we're talking about, an era of digital natives, kids who've grown up with social media. And this is a slightly wry commentary here, because this is a piece of social media that was used to organise riots in the UK in 2011, which ended up with this. So the kind of the conflicting culture that we have at the moment with social media. They're watching things like this, things like this, things like this, things like this, things like this. So now this is how do you actually translate something traditional like theatre and make it relevant and keep that tradition going with people who've grown up with this kind of context. And a bit more about my background. I was editor of this magazine for about 5 years. So I was a technology journalist. So I have a journalist and a technology background. And I've seen this is publishing magazines is not as anywhere near as old a culture as theatre, but I've seen this particular tradition decimated, massively transformed by the arrival of digital culture and the internet. When this magazine went online, it looked like this. But even this is old-fashioned by today's standards, because now we're talking about news looking like this. BuzzFeed, where the article's all about the 26 most American comebacks in the history of the world. Click, I want to read about that. This is, again, it's the complete opposite of a 3-hour Shakespearean play. Attention spans of about 25 seconds if you're lucky. We've seen the same sort of thing happen all across the media landscape. Presumably most people here have heard of this program. It is pretty popular outside the UK. But this is kind of traditional drama. It's had a bit of a comeback, but this is still what's happening with television. We've got things like, this is the X Factor, which I think has been around all over the world now as a franchise, which has a bit more interactivity. But attempts to kind of make television relevant in the digital realm have just putting it online, making it available for download. But when kids are watching stuff like this, this is a guy called PewDiePie who swears a lot, but he's one of the most popular video bloggers on YouTube. My kids, who are 10 and 13, watch this guy's videos all the time. This is the kind of content they're used to. How do you get someone who watches PewDiePie navigating his way around a game and swearing a lot to watch a Shakespearean play and be interested? We've seen this in every single medium with this kind of this problem. Paper magazines, TV, film. So how does traditional culture cope with this transition to the digital way of consuming content? And I had taken this slide out of the next one out of not this one. I put it in the wrong place. I had taken this slide out of my presentation before, but because our august keynote speaker had put quite a bit of Marshall McLuhan in, I thought I'd bring it back because it's relevant. The medium is the message. And the meaning of that phrase is manifold, but one of the primary ones is trying to make things fit into, you take an old medium and you put it in the new medium, but the new medium has its own way of shaping. So how do you actually, that's a question actually. I was having this discussion with Robert Castiles earlier actually, which was, can you actually, is it a paradox to try and make traditional culture in this new form? Is it actually transforming it too much? That's not a question I'm going to answer, but I think it's one that we need to think about, because the kind of culture I deal with, web culture, is primarily an American culture. The internet was invented in America. So it's what you were saying, Luca, about management as well. So are we kind of Americanizing traditional culture? So anyway, the context. So I've slotted that slide into the wrong place. So we started off our relationship with the Royal Shakespeare Company because they, believe it or not, the Royal Shakespeare Company itself has made very few films of their own plays. There are quite a few plays of Shakespeare made into films by other entities, but not by the RSC, the supposedly the body that kind of holds, whose remit is to maintain the heritage of this playwright. They want that, but they do have this educational remit as well to keep finding relevance in new generations for the Shakespearean tradition. So they were looking for a way to actually almost jump a generation and move into the digital realm without having hit the film realm. So they thought, well, who can we talk to who might be able to help us with this? And because of what our background, we sprung to mind. They were basically looking to take this, and the very observant might notice there's a slight wryness in there because one of the actors in that was the assassin of Abraham Lincoln. How do you take this into the world of this, basically? So they enlisted our help, and we were trying to make something for the first project we did with them that was bringing all the new technologies of the web to bear and create an experience of Shakespeare that was much more in keeping with what young people would be used to and would be able to accept. We started off not with an actual Shakespeare play, but with a play by a guy called Tim Crouch, who's made his name primarily for taking a small character from a Shakespearean play and looking at the events of that play that they're in from their perspective and kind of writing a whole new play. So he's kind of I series of plays, I Banquo, I Peasbottom, and the one we were going to deal with was called I Cinna. This is Cinna the poet. If you know your Julius Caesar, Cinna the poet was the character. There's Cinna the conspirator who helps to kill Caesar, and Cinna the poet is met by the mob, and they say, "Oh, you're Cinna the poet. Well, we don't care. We're going to kill you for your bad verses." So that's pretty much the extent of his time in this play. So this is a different perspective. This was kind of the test case scenario. So we wanted to create something that would make it much more interactive for young people. We thought about, I don't know whether you're familiar with the way The Guardian newspaper in the UK does data journalism and presents information in a much more interactive way. We wanted to bring some of that on board, but we soon realised that this kind of high advanced technology wasn't very easy or to present in a school's context because of the security controls, the level of technology that they would be using to access it. So we came up with a different plan. For this particular project, we shot a film of the play as well as actually creating all the web content and the management of the event. This is just a shot of one of the location that we used for shooting this film, which you can still actually find on YouTube if you want to have a look at it. I won't have time to show you any of it. So it's shot in a disused chapel in South London. Maybe one thing I haven't made clear yet is the whole of this was also, although I was project managing it, everything was created by Ravensbourne students. So this was a student project as well. So it was an educational project in terms of what we were trying to do by actually making something that would be relevant to school children, but is also an educational project in terms of the people from Ravensbourne, students from Ravensbourne working on it, learning how to make something of this themselves and coming up with their own ideas. So they created many of the ideas. So this is what they created. My web media students created this website. The interactive elements that we added were, this is the main actor. It's basically a one-man show, which you think, how can we get teenagers to be really interested in a Shakespearean one-man show? Well, we did succeed. One of the ways was we actually had a Q&A system. So the students were able, the school children were able to send questions to some of the participants in the play and ask them about the themes of the play, the production of the play. So this is the system that we used. They had to log in and send questions. And so this was a social media type aspect. It had to be moderated by some of my students as well. And you can see this is a shot of the live studio Q&A session taking place. That's the playwright, the actor, and I don't know, you probably have heard of this woman outside of the UK, but this is quite a famous BBC presenter called Connie Huck, who was doing the chairing the in-studio discussion. So basically, the event consisted of an introduction by Connie Huck, and then we'd show the play, which was a film actually, rather than actual being shot live, and then we had this live studio presentation. Another aspect of this particular production was the opportunity for people who are watching it to write their own poems, because Cinna, the character, is a poet, so they were given a theme, and they were able to supply these poems, and they were able to upload them to this website. Here's one of the poems, and they're all stored. We had something like 700 poems submitted to the site. So there was a kind of a lasting legacy of interaction. So they were able to take something away that was that extended beyond the actual event itself. So this is this was from 2012. This particular production, and we got about 9,000 school kids watching it, which is a pretty decent figure for something of this nature. Age 11 plus. This particular one was created in partnership with the Cisco company, and also was part of the Cultural Olympiads, 2012 being the year of the Olympics in the UK. And we had 700 poems. 10 days after the event, 700 poems submitted. So you can get a sense of the kind of engagement we'd fostered. The feedback we got from teachers and students was universally positive. Not just positive, absolutely ecstatic about the experience. One school kid who'd in the same day been able to see this play and also hold the Olympic torch said that was the best day of their life. Which I don't know, that's going a bit overboard, but so this has then developed into a whole series now, and so we, for our second production with the Royal Shakespeare Company, we worked with an actual Shakespearean play, Richard the Second, with and this is starring, I don't know whether you recognise this guy. This is David Tennant, who's he's a national treasure in the UK, but he's most famous for having played Doctor Who for a couple of seasons, and although we're not normally allowed to mention that, this was an absolute sellout play at the time. So we created a very different site design for this, much more modern in look. And this time around, we made it a lot simpler for the question and answering system. You can see here that there's the play running, and there's the way that you could students could submit questions for the Q&A session afterwards. Now, Ravensbourne being a digital media type university, we have our own TV facility. So this is the TV studio with the students working in it, mixing the play live. The play wasn't live. I mean, this the later series of productions that we're doing are running in tandem with the Shakespeare Live events in cinemas. So basically, the Royal Shakespeare Company has been in another attempt to make its cultural heritage have a wider audience. They've been streaming plays live into cinemas all over the world. I don't know whether has Singapore had any of these plays in cinemas here. There certainly is in the US and Australia. There'll be cinemas seeing these plays. But we've been taking recordings of these performances to form the basis of these productions. So we've advanced our technology for giving people a sense of engagement. Now, this is a map that we created that shows the student questions popping up with their location. And this is a more advanced moderation system that we used for checking through questions, because one of the things we realised with the first version is school kids, if they have an opportunity to post swear words, they will, and you've got to find a way of filtering those out. So we hadn't really got that very well in place with the Cinna production. So we we developed this system for this one. Those are some kids in a school watching this on a whiteboard. And that's the Q&A session. There you've got David Tennant and the artistic director of the Royal Shakespeare Company, Gregory Duran, and Connie Huck presenting again. So this event was because it had a star name attached to it, was significantly more successful in terms of the number of people watching it. We had 30,000 school kids watching this production. So that's like a small cable TV channel, basically. And we work in tandem with the school's internet provider, Janet, in the UK, to ensure that we have enough bandwidth to cope with that kind of load. And because we're sending this out in 720p HD, so it's it is quite data heavy. We had over 400 schools watching this production. But also we had to kind of limit the amount of interaction to make it simpler. So we've gone on, we've done Henry IV Part 2 more recently. And we developed our technology further. That's the character of Falstaff from this particular play, played by Anthony Sher, who's a very long-standing and famous actor in the UK, also, I believe, the partner of the artistic director of the RSC. So one of the things that we added, one of the problems that we've got, which I already intimated with doing these things with schools, is technology and security. Trying to actually get the stuff to work. I mean, you could put a video up on YouTube and you could kind of hope that people could watch it. But if you're doing something more sophisticated with interaction that you control and using your own custom platform, how do you actually get that to work in schools? So one of the ways that we thought about to do this was to actually give schools a login ID so we'd actually know who they are. So that gave us this information. Now, we worked on this in collaboration with the NSA. That's a joke, by the way. We're not involved with US security services. But we've managed, from the login, you can see all this information that's come up about the schools that we can use to test whether or not their system is compatible. So when they phone up and say, I can't see the video, we're able to look them up on this table and see, well, actually, you're using a really old browser, you're using the wrong technology, and we also have a possibility to switch the technology we use to send specifically to that school over, so they can actually get a better view. Another innovation with this next second project was the addition of sign language for the people with hearing difficulties. So basically a button at the bottom underneath the video allowed you to switch over between the regular feed and one with this signed feed. And that's, have a percentage of schools now that watch with that signed feed. And for accessibility, again, taking this heritage and making it more accessible still. Different moderation system, more sophisticated, and we've added the questions scrolling on the bottom there as well. Studio there. So as I said, this is developed into a whole a 3-year deal now with the Royal Shakespeare Company. So we're going to be we've just done Two Gentlemen of Verona in November. We're working on Love Labour's Lost and Love Labour's Won coming up, and then we've got more coming up over the next couple of years as well, doing 3 plays per year. So that's just a view of the site for Two Gentlemen of Verona. So, saying this is getting young people involved in the Shakespearean heritage on a number of different levels. The Ravensbourne students, they're learning these new ways of presenting a heritage project of this nature through being involved with this project, and this is a paid project for them as well, which is which is another incentive for them to do this, and they get something they can go out into industry with as well. But it's also, there's obviously the value it has for the school kids watching it. A lot of the kids watching the Shakespeare productions have never seen Shakespeare before, and never been to a theatre to see Shakespearean productions. So this is their opportunity to see a real theatrical production shot very, very well by a professional team at cinematic quality. So it brings this into a new context. So and it's also much more participatory. They're able to ask questions. They're able to actually take to feel like it's their event that they're involved in. But as I said, this is. I don't put this slide up when I've got somebody from the RSC in the audience, because they probably wouldn't approve of the image there, and that kind of symbolises the problems you have here of actually putting something like Shakespeare on the web. Is that you have that's for those who don't realise who that is. That's obviously William Shakespeare's head, but on the body of Master Chief from Halo. That's maybe that's what you'd have to do to actually get kids really, really involved with Shakespeare. Let them kind of play Shakespeare in an online game. But I'm joking really. But it's would you have to go that far to kind of go out into the world that younger people are inhabiting in their own digital culture? So that's how can we actually bring cultural heritage online in a way that actually fits the medium and fits the audience as well of young people. Now, I wanted to talk about a second project, just to have enough time, I think, to before we have to switch over to the Q&A, which is, after doing these projects, we've been approached by other heritage organisations to kind of make their presentations, their services more digitally enjoyable, more digitally aware. So we one of the first ones we took on that wasn't the RSC was with the London Symphony Orchestra. They have a relatively new location called St Luke's, just above Old Street Station in London. It's a converted chapel, beautiful, beautiful location. And what they wanted to do was to promote all the different kinds of activities, not just concerts, that they were available in this location. So this is what we came up with. This is actually the exterior shot of the location itself. So we wanted to get a non-linear way of bring in all the kind of digital ways that the interactive storytelling that is available via a medium like the web. They have their facilities is usable for education. It's usable for events. Performance obviously is what it was its kind of primary role, but it's also an interesting piece of building architecture, because it was a disused church because it suffered from subsidence, so they had to kind of deal with that as well to get it to work. So again, I worked with students to create this. The idea that I proposed was to have this floor plan motif as a way of navigating a series of videos and other information to show what was available. So instead of just kind of clicking through menus, you'd actually have a much more graphical view of how the space operated and the different ways you could use different parts of that space. But one of the most interesting things they have in their location is a gamelan, an Indonesian instrument. I think is there somebody here who's actually does some work? You work with a gamelan, have you? Yeah. Not normally played by very small children, but it can be. So that the idea was, how do you actually get across the very different and amazing thing that a gamelan is? So they use it for a number of things. They have a kind of bonding sessions where people get together. They have a kind of club of people who play the gamelan, but they also use it for corporate sessions, instead of standing in a circle and having someone fall back on you and catching them, for corporate bonding, they'll all kind of learn to play the gamelan together. So that's something they offer. So how do we get across the idea of what a gamelan is and how the kind of music you can create with it? So the idea, again, worked with a student. The idea I had was to create a multiple tiered approach. So first of all, there's this space where you can actually learn about the instruments of the gamelan, play the notes, and learn a little bit about what these instruments are, why they're called what they are. But most sophisticated of all, there's a composer. Now, gamelan is basically an instrument a bit like a drum machine, essentially, in that you have you play the gongs in sequence, and it's a group effort to play these gongs in sequence to create this music. So I thought this is like a drum machine. It's like a sequencer. So let's create an online sequencer that you can make your own gamelan compositions. So you can get into the whole concept of how this functions. So this is what we've created, and you click on these different areas to kind of put a note in a particular point in time, and you can play it back. This is still in production. You can have a play with it yourself at the URL I'm going to show you in a bit. But the function for sharing and receiving and opening up other people's shared compositions doesn't quite work at the moment. We're just kind of ironing through some bugs in that, and also the sample by their resident gamelan specialist is a bit broken for the same reason. But the idea behind this was something that people can actually do online to kind of get into what this traditional piece of culture feels like, which would then inspire them to go along, in the case of this particular project, hire the facilities or go along to one of the gamelan sessions and experience it for real. But also you could get some flavour of it without having to go as well. So it works on multiple levels to get people enthusiastic about the traditional culture. That's the URL to go there. And that is the end of my presentation. So I've been pretty quick. We maybe can have a bit more time for quick Q&A sessions. Those are my details if you want to get in contact with me about this at all. Thanks very much.